On this episode of Beyond the Hunt, we're hunting a whitetail buck, a 5.5-year-old whitetail nicknamed Whiskey. We're closing in on Halloween week, and I've always had really good success, especially central Nebraska hunting whitetails. The last few days of October going into the first few days of November is a magical time. In the same time frame, the moon, everything's lining up to be a perfect hunt just like we had the year before. We got into a stand on the south side of this particular farm that we were hunting, and it's a spot where my buddy Dustin had been seeing this deer living for most of the summer and going into fall. The problem was the landowners were combining the fields all around this one particular spot. There was a lot of traffic that could potentially give us a problem. That being said, again, it's a working farm slash ranch, and these deer are used to seeing traffic in the pastures and in the fields. We don't know, we're just gonna have to jump in the tree and see what happens. As we're sitting in the tree stand, I caught deer to my left, and after getting the binoculars on them, it looked like the deer we were hunting. It looked like Whiskey. We're fairly exposed, and a lot of times I think if you're banging the horns together in an area like that, those deer can peg you immediately, and we didn't have a lot of cover in this tree. Now the tree's a good spot. It's a pinch point by a water tank. Again, the problem is we're just exposed on the side of the hill in that tree. I wanted to turn my back to the deer. In turning my back to the deer, I can then be fairly active with the rattling antlers, and then I have Mike, my cameraman, is giving me feedback as to what the deer is doing.
I'll try to get him down here. Just watch him. I'm gonna turn my back to him. Just watch him.
Initially, I want to hit the horns together fairly aggressively because we've got machines and combines running, and I want him to know we're there, but I also don't want to run him off. Unfortunately, that did not go the way I was expecting. I thought for sure we'd at least pique his curiosity. The deer just wigged out and did not stick around. Now there's two things going through my mind at this point. One, he is wigged out from all the traffic and commotion in the fields. The other one is the fact that deer can get call shy. They can be called at, they can be worked by other hunters, and sometimes they will respond the way this deer did in this rattling sequence. I don't know if he's been called at and hunted and he's kind of had that card played on him. Nonetheless, those are the things that, as you go through a hunt, and especially if you're pinned down on one specific animal, you have to try to read their mannerisms and their, I say, personalities. Again, he just wasn't having it. Now, he might be a deer too. Option number 3 is he may be a deer that just doesn't like being called to like that. It's going to take some time, but we're going to get him figured out. After the encounter with Whiskey and watching the direction that he was going and the direction that the wind was blowing, I felt like with a west-northwest wind, he went into that with his nose into the wind. We wanted to set up in a spot that was on the back side of that hill or ridge that he was going to, because the wind, one, would be in our face, but two, if the weather got rough and real windy, a lot of times they'll peel off of the top of those little ridges and get tucked in on the east face. Got a northwest wind. He will come in and want to bed in on the east side, but still have the ability to have the wind in his face, kind of on the top third of that ridge. The way we were set up is we could be set up below him, have our eyes on the east face of that ridge, and if he got up and moved around in that bedding area, and a lot of times they will midday and check does, we'll be in a spot where we could get our eyes on him. Keep in mind, we're still right on the front end of the pre-rut. You almost have to sometimes convince these guys that you want to fight. Started hitting the grunt call. Wildlife, they have an uncanny ability to lock down the exact spot where that call came from. With the grunting, I did not want to throw it any particular direction, but right at him. I wanted him to know I was there, and I wanted him to acknowledge that he knew I was where I was. And when that happened, quiet time, and let's just see how he reacts. As he closes the distance, he's from about 300 yards down to about 100, 150, and then all of a sudden, I don't see him come out of a certain set of trees that he should have come out. And about that time, Mike, my cameraman, says, "Oh shoot, a coyote just came through." And a coyote literally from left to right came between he and I, and it just threw the buck off enough that I wasn't going to aggressively try to get him down to me. It was getting later on in the morning, getting close to going to bed. So at this point, let's just play it safe, let him go do his thing. Let's slip out of the tree. We'll go back and eat some lunch, and we'll come back and give him a shot later that afternoon. The stand is in a really good spot. A lot of scrape lines in this set of trees, and the bucks, as I said before, they're using this community scrape line, so to speak, where a lot of these bucks will hit it on their way out to the destination food source, and then they'll obviously hit it on the downwind side coming back to bed. As we're sitting there, letting the day kind of progress and kind of getting into that right time, I wanted to start doing some calling. We knew he was close. We knew he wasn't far away. After the first sequence, we looked down and had a 2.5-year-old come right underneath us with his nose on the ground, just cruising. You know that every day that we get further into this pre-rut and rut phase, the activity's picking up, and that was such a good sign to see that 2.5-year-old cruising like that. We know that things are about to kick off and it's going to get good. And we're sitting there being patient, and all of a sudden we start to hear sticks popping and cracking. And that snort wheeze call comes out. And as I see him start to come out from behind the cedar tree that he's rubbing on, I'm almost positive it's him. Whiskey walks right into the lane. He's so close, I'm not going to try to stop him, and it's just time to let one go.
You've got to be kidding me. I don't even know what to say. He just walked into the hole, gave us a 15-yard shot. I killed splits on a Halloween night last year. This is almost to the hour of when I shot splits. Unbelievable.
My tactic going into day 2 on the calling was fairly passive, because I felt like the read he gave me the first time we had the encounter was he was not a buck that was going to tolerate the calling, especially when it came to rattling. I mean, you know, some bucks just aren't fighters. There is truth to that phrase, I'm a lover, not a fighter. They may not be social. He doesn't want to be around a lot of other deer. That deer doesn't want to fight. There's some bucks that can't wait to go in and whip everybody's butt.
Oh my God. Look at his faces. Oh my goodness. Look at this, guys. I mean,
You didn't shot a stud.
I did. That's a Nebraska tank. Halloween night. Almost to the hour.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
My experience is a lot of these big deer will like to lay on the top third of these ridges. A lot of times when that wind comes over a ridge, it kind of wants to dump over the top and create a little swirling effect right there. I think they like to get above that to get a more consistent wind. Top third of the ridge, wind stays a bit more consistent, but it keeps them up so they can look down, and then if there is something bad coming, they can bail over the top. That's just my experience and my take on things, and I hope that's somewhat of a generalization of my thought process on where we were set up and why we were set up in that area. Hey, thanks for going behind the scenes with me here at Beyond the Hunt. If you liked what you saw, please hit the subscribe button, click like, and ring the bell for more notifications.